Virat Kohli, one of the greatest of his generations, has decided to hang up his boots, and the cricketing world at large is finding it very tough to come to terms with this piece of news. And why do I say they're finding it very tough? Because at the end of the day, it does seem a bit abrupt. 36 years of age, all right, but fit as a fiddle, and many thought that he might have still a couple of years to go as far as his career in white dress and red ball is concerned. Having said that, this was a decision taken by Virat Kohli. As you all know, retirement is a very personal decision, and he's come out and said exactly that probably the desire that he had to play test cricket for so long doesn't exist anymore, which is why he's decided to step away. But what we're going to do here is give you a timeline as to how things transpired and how a Virat Kohli, who just till a month or a couple of months ago was determined to go to England, was determined to score a lot of runs there, has suddenly decided to step away from the format, which in his own words was his favorite. Now remember, on Sports Today, we had been speaking about Virat Kohli's retirement or his impending retirement in the last couple of weeks, where we had been giving you hints that there is a likelihood that Virat Kohli may not be going to England. And now all of that has come true. What was the basis of us first reporting that Virat Kohli may not be traveling to England? And that is why you need to look at this timeline. It will give you an idea of how Virat Kohli, from being a very important cog in India's test cricketing system, has decided to step away. Now, it all starts from the Border Gavaskar Trophy, 8th of December 2024, and this is where the chain of events really start. India lose the Adelaide Test, and that's the very first time there is this sort of an informal conversation that is had between Virat Kohli and the other stakeholders or the important members of the think tank of Indian cricket. That would include your coach in Gautam Gambhir. Also remember, chairman of selectors Ajit Agarkar was also on tour, and that's when people close to Virat tell us that he got the hint that they may be looking at him as an interim captain. Now, why is it that they would have reached a conclusion like that? Because remember, India had won the first test match in Perth, and Virat Kohli had also got 100, silencing a lot of his critics, probably telling that his best is yet to come and he's still maybe good enough to play this format. But they may be, or the Indian think tank was beginning to think about a new leader or test cricket without Rohit Sharma. That was more of a reality that was facing them. Remember, India won the first test match under Jasprit Bumrah, and when Rohit came back in Adelaide, India lost. So probably the thought of looking at Virat as captain did start at the end of Adelaide Test. At least people close to Virat do seem to suggest that he was given a sort of a hint that he'd be getting captaincy after Adelaide. But then things change. From there on, by the time this is start of December, by the time you reach end of December, you've already lost the BGT. You lose the Melbourne Test, you go back in a situation where you cannot then be winning the BGT. And so at that moment, there is a thought there that India should look at a young captain. And this is where I believe Virat feels a bit betrayed. He feels that, just a short while ago, I was being spoken about, or a few weeks ago, I was being looked at as an interim captain, and suddenly the tone has changed. However, Virat has been told that, listen, keep committing yourself to this format and there is still a chance. So while he does see the tone change, he does see that there is a change in the outlook, and the think tank now, that could be the selectors as well as coach, are now looking at a young captain, but he still feels that there could be an opportunity for him to continue playing test cricket for a long time, and who knows, he might still be captain as well. This is 30th December, but things are gradually changing. Remember, it doesn't happen all of a sudden. Then you reach January 25. Virat is still keen. How do you know that? He turns up for Delhi in a Ranji Trophy game, because he's been told that if you're motivated enough, if we see that hunger still exists, who knows, we might be handing you the test captaincy. Remember, in all of this, when you're looking at the performances, Virat Kohli is eager to play test cricket because he's playing, as I mentioned, domestic cricket for Delhi. You've also now heard from the coach at that time, Sarandeep, saying that he spoke to Virat, where he mentioned that, listen, I am looking forward to going to England. I'm going to smash 100 or 2. And so that desire is still there. And probably he feels that he's been looked at, and there is a genuine show of interest from Virat Kohli. And this is something that probably the selector, the coach, or whoever eventually takes the decision, or the mandarins at the BCCI would be keeping a close eye on. However, things again turn for the worse, where this conversation that starts during the IPL in April, because you are looking at a future roadmap, and the selectors, obviously in consultation with the coach, have reached a sort of a decision that they will be going with a young captain. And not only that, Virat is also told that he will be judged like any other player, no special privileges. Yes, he's been he's provided yeoman service to Indian Test team. He's been captain for very long, one of the standout players, all right. But because his form has dipped, and it's not just the last year or so, and over the 5 years his form seems to have taken a hit, so he's also going to be judged as a player. And that's when the first time Virat Kohli actually lets people know, this is April of 25, he lets the selectors know that if this is the case, if this is the situation where he finds himself at, he is not keen to tour England. At this time still, it's not 100% certain that he's going to announce his retirement. However, that is a conclusion that anyone could have drawn from there, because if he doesn't tour England, then the chances of him making a comeback would be tough, because England was being looked at probably the final opportunity for a Virat Kohli to show that he still belongs at the highest level. However, for the next 2 weeks, there are hectic conversations, parlance behind the scenes, where a lot of influential people, those close to Virat, some former players, I believe selectors as well, did try to convince Virat to change his mind, that not to take a decision in a hurry. Yes, he may be under scrutiny, but that does not mean that he's not going to be playing in England. So maybe he can change his mind. Even, I believe, players who've played with him, players who could have been very close to him, former coaches of the Indian team, I believe a lot of them did try to speak to a Virat Kohli and try and convince him to change his mind. However, as it then turns out, on the 12th of May, it was pretty clear, and Virat had informed the selectors by then, that not only is he not going to England, he's decided to let go of the test format and not play. People that are close to Virat also say that he seemed to have been disillusioned with Indian cricket, which is to say that he had high hopes from Indian cricket. He felt that Indian cricket would handle him with care. Probably he would be given a much longer rope than everyone else. However, when he felt that his, not only, the promises or the suggestions that were made earlier, they have been, put on the back burner. Even his place in the team is going to be under scrutiny, and there could be a possibility going forward where if runs don't come, he could be dropped. I think he wanted to not be part of a system where he gave it a lot and did not get that in return, and probably did not want to also go through the embarrassment of having been dropped from Test cricket. And as Virat has said multiple times before, that he had that desire to play cricket as so long as his love for the game was there. And probably this is a moment where his love for Test cricket seemed to have diminished, and maybe that is one of the reasons why he decided to quit the game when many thought that he should have continued. Looking at the post by his wife Anushka Sharma, it also feels that she herself was taken by surprise that Virat did decide to retire from Test cricket. Of course, there are a lot of speculation that who knows, you could still get him to change his mind, but as things stand right now, that seems unlikely. In fact, I don't see any chance of that happening. You probably have seen the last of Virat Kohli in whites. You ask me personally, I agree that there is no harm in putting everyone under scrutiny. All players, legends as well, previous to Virat Kohli, have always come under scrutiny. He's not the first player to go through this, sort of Agni Pariksha. But having said that, that's the one thing that you enjoyed about Virat Kohli, that no matter the situation, no matter how tough everything got, it was times where he was questioned. He liked to prove his critics wrong, and that element of Virat Kohli missing does come as a surprise to most of us, especially when he's so close to many a landmarks, so close to 10,000 runs. There are very few people who reach that level. Probably, he's happy with this decision, but maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, if he looks back, maybe it could prove to be a decision that he's taken emotionally. If he had been pragmatic about it, who knows? He could still be that player. He could still have continued maybe for a year, 2 years, and especially if he found his form back, he could have gone up that ladder in terms of total runs scored in Test cricket and add on to his 30 centuries as well. However, as I mentioned, as things stand right now, that seems unlikely. In fact, there seems to be no chance of him now adding on to that legacy in Test match cricket. Of course, ODI cricket is something that he'll continue to play. Do give us a like on the video if you're enjoying our content, and as always, subscribe to Sports Today. Share this particular video with all your other friends that are looking at the reasons why Virat Kohli may have suddenly, abruptly decided to retire from Test cricket.